Hey there, Mr. Redder here. Welcome back to another episode of r/Entitled People Stories. Our first story we'll be reading today, Throw Your Trash in My Yard, Enjoy Moving. After that, Am I the Jerk for Exposing My Ex to His Mother? And after that, My Mom Keeps Being Rude to My Wife, so I Kicked Her Out. Now for every thumbs up this video gets, one Karen gets evicted. Oh, you'd like that, wouldn't you, Reddit boy? So please smash that like button. And subscribe and turn on notifications for new stories from Reddit every single day. Throw your trash in my yard? Enjoy moving. My now ex neighbor was pretty trashy. Cars sitting on blocks in the yard, cigarettes hanging out of her mouth while she was pregnant, and blasting Kid Rock. Well, this lady decided that paying $1 per trash bag was just too much. Our township will only pick up your trash if it is in one of the approved purple bags though. So, normal trash bags will just be left behind. The trash truck drives right past them. Her solution? Buy normal trash bags at the dollar store and have her 8-year-old toss them over the fence into my yard. Now their trash is my problem. After confronting her, she just laughed, so I called the cops. They said that since the kid was so young and there was no proof his parents told him to do it, there was nothing that they could do. So this went on for about 4 months. Me taking the bags of trash they toss into my yard, wrapping them in purple bags that I paid out of pocket for, and putting them out to the curb. Pretty annoying. Not to mention the extra $3 or so a week I'm spending on trash bags. I'm slowly growing to hate this lady. It was annoying at first, but I was getting mad. Mind you, I own my home and she was just renting hers. So I get a hold of their landlord and I offer to buy the house for a decent amount above market value, 17%. He jumps at the offer, and soon I'm the proud owner of the house next door to me. Sure, it cost me $71,000, but what price do you put on peace of mind? The very first thing I did was serve them an eviction notice, in person, across the same fence that they like to throw trash over. That was 31 days ago. As of today, the unit is empty. I don't know where they went, but they're someone else's problem now. All because she didn't want to pay for her own trash bags. I think I'm going to knock that house down and make my yard bigger. I've been wanting to put in a handball court. Note for the profile stalkers, this is not the same neighbor with the husky. I like those neighbors. Am I the jerk for exposing my ex to his mother? I, 45 female, am currently divorced from my ex, Thomas, 47 male, of 30 years. We ended up seeing a lawyer to help with dividing stuff. Everything was pretty much wrapped up till he said he no longer wanted any part of our kids' lives, who are 5 and 12. I didn't argue with him about it since I already know what it's like having a parent who doesn't want you around or want to be part of your life. I asked what he wanted me to tell the kids, and he just said, "Whatever you think is best, I don't care. I don't want to be a parent anymore." Everything was in agreement and signed with no fuss. A few weeks later, I get a call from my ex-mother-in-law asking if we could meet each other. When I came over, she broke down crying and begging to let my ex see his kids again. I was confused about what she meant because not once did he contact me after meeting the lawyer. She went on about how my ex said he really missed them and that I was being a petty jerk for taking full custody and that he was crying for days about it. I told her my version of events and she called it BS, saying her son wouldn't lie, especially not about his kids. Then I decided to call him in front of her. He didn't know she and I were meeting that day. I said, "Hey, your son has a soccer game in a few days," which he did, and I was wondering if you wanted to go. I know he'd really love it and he'd be happy to see you. He instantly said, "No, I already said I'm not doing this anymore." I raised my voice a bit, saying, "Well, what about holidays and birthdays? Because we never discussed any of it and your family might want to see them." He just said, "My family already thinks they aren't mine anyways, so it doesn't matter." I asked, "Well, how do you think this is going to affect Denise, his mom? She's over the moon about them." He just said, "She loves me more than the kids, so I doubt this will be an issue for her." After a bit more talking, we finally hung up. Ex-mother-in-law was straight-faced and nodded at everything that just happened, saying, okay." She asked me to leave and said we would be in touch. Later that day, I got a call from my ex saying how it's my fault he was kicked out of his mom's house and possibly will be taken off her will. Also, that none of his family members will talk to him because of what ex-mother-in-law heard. He threw a lot of insults at me before I hung up, and now him and his mates keep calling and texting me. My friend is saying I shouldn't have said anything in the first place and I ruined his life. Edit. Yes, I plan to let Denise see the kids because I know she just wants to give them the world along with the rest of his family. Second edit. I want to address something because this keeps coming up and I can't keep up with everyone. Due to actions he and I took when we were younger, my Christian parents thought it would be best he and I be married at the time. Not the jerk. He had the right to sign off his rights. He did not have the right to paint you in a bad light and make you look to be at fault and evil or manipulative. That's defamation of character. You had the right to set the record straight. His mom had the right to go no contact with her son, a grown man who didn't want contact with his actual kids. Sounds like he's getting a taste of his own medicine, aka karma. Not the jerk. All you did was offer him an opportunity to see his kids. This was done because he cried to mommy about how the mean ex was depriving him of that opportunity. He did the rest. My mom keeps being rude to my wife, so I kicked her out. I, 33 male, am beyond angry about this. Some of my siblings are telling me it was an overreaction while also mad at what she did. I'd really like some thoughts because the house seems divided. My wife Kara and I were friends for years. She was in a very toxic relationship for 3 years until she had begged us, me and our close friends, to help her get out. It was difficult, but we made it possible. We all pitched in for her to stay as far as possible while she got a restraining order and all of that jazz. We each took turns going to visit. Then she found out she was pregnant, so I helped out more. Her ex passed when my stepson, who's 7 now, was 4 months old, so since then, we all became sort of like uncles and aunts to him. Around that time, I knew I developed feelings for her, but we never ever did anything because she had personal issues to process. It didn't feel right at the time. But yes, we did start a relationship 3 years later. She's the one who first admitted she's in love with me, so things went from there. We just got married. She's 5 months pregnant with our second. I will say that, yeah, my mom had issues at the start of our relationship because she believed Kara was faking what happened to her just to make me feel sorry for her and take care of them. We went through a period of not talking until she apologized, so we mended things somewhat. My mom came to stay at our house, which was my dad's house, until he decided to give ownership to me when they moved. He passed 10 months ago, and with the economy, my mom couldn't stay where they were living before. We're still trying to work out where she can live long term. I heard my mom get into an argument with my wife because she was trying to redecorate the nursery against Kara's wishes. All I heard was my mom telling her that she's not the lady of the house just because her fake victim sob story worked on me. She looked flustered when I demanded her to tell me what that meant. And basically, she held on to that same belief, but she was willing to put up with my choices on who I marry so she doesn't lose me. Everything she had to say infuriated me. And then, seeing how upset Kara was by everything, I called my brother to come pick my mom up because she can't stay here right now. My mom wouldn't stop crying to not do this to her just for being honest. She's still at my brother's, but they keep trying to talk me into letting her come back because this was my dad's house, and of course she wants to feel closer to him. But after asking Kara if this is the first time she said anything, she revealed my mom has told her numerous times what she thinks of her and kept it from me because she knew it would hurt our relationship. For that reason, I haven't let my mom come back. It's hard because I know what this house means to her and that she's still sad about my dad, but also can't forgive her for upsetting my wife. Am I the jerk? Not the jerk. Your mom isn't the lady of the house just because she was married to your dad at one point in time. What she said to your wife is extremely disrespectful. She, your mom, doesn't get to try and guilt trip you just because she got caught red-handed in mistreating your pregnant wife. Not the jerk. Your wife is pregnant and does not need the stress. Your son is 7 and he can overhear all of this. He's old enough to put things together and remember this. Being your dad's house has nothing to do with this. She can live elsewhere, and I bet your brother is saying this because he doesn't want her at his place. Why was it your dad's house and not your mom and dad's house? Wondering how it passed her and went to you. OP, because he was still alive when he let me take ownership of the house and they moved out together. You are the jerk. Your mom agreed with your dad's wish to give you the house, but honestly, if they were married, and it seems they were married until he passed, the house is 50% hers as well technically. Yeah, your mom is a huge jerk to your wife, but she was taken advantage of financially by your dad and now you. OP, technically, no. It's not like she didn't agree to it. They didn't want the house going to someone else. It was my dad's house before they were married, But either way, they weren't going to stay with the house because they were moving. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or his mom? Please let us know. Entitled Dad, My Baby Deserves Other People's Cupcakes. I worked in a nursery school in an expensive neighborhood of an expensive city. We had 24 3-year-olds in the class. By May, we took a walking field trip one day a week to a playground 4 blocks away. We'd take snacks and some balls to play with on the basketball court and baseball field, and at least 4 parents would come with us to help supervise because the area was spread out and kids can zip away unless extra eyes help keep track. The kids had been playing, and of course, there are other kids and parents and nannies, etc. at the playground as well. We got all our kids together for a snack. They sit on picnic blankets and have crackers and apples and water. It's nursery school, so there's always a chaotic aspect to it. Trying to keep everyone seated and hand sanitize and pass food in water cups and give additional servings when kids are done, collect trash. This day's special though. It was a birthday. One kid was wearing a colorful paper crown, and the parent was one of our chaperones and brought cupcakes for the class. Hooray! The kids ate their healthy food, and we sang happy birthday, and several adults helped pass out the cupcakes to our large group of 3-year-olds clamoring for sugary treats. In the midst of all this hurry, a dad and his kid bellied up to the picnic table where the box of cupcakes are, and he had the gumption to ask, "My daughter saw your cupcakes, and she was wondering if she can have one too." The girl was about the same age as our class, and she was entirely quiet. I had no idea if she had asked her dad or if it was his idea. She definitely wasn't fussing about it or asking as far as I saw. I found the request completely exasperating. I told him, "You can see we have a large school group to look after. I don't know if there will be any cupcakes left for your kid. Excuse me, I need to pass out cupcakes to the class." I dropped off some cupcakes and came back for more. The guy was still there and speaking with the birthday kid's parents, who, much nicer than I, passed this entitled jerk a cupcake for his kid. Whatever. The end? Nope. A week or 2 later, we were back at the playground on our regular day. To exit the park, the kids had to walk up a long ramp to the gate and exit onto the sidewalk we take back to school. Our jostling group had their jackets and were finding partners' hands and such, when my coworker and I noticed the cupcake-begging dad is there, setting up a birthday party for his daughter at the picnic tables. Coworker and I are toward the front of the line, and we emerge from the ramp onto the sidewalk, while we wait for the rest of the kids and adults to straggle up the ramp. The fence surrounding the playground is covered with thick vines that look like a hedge. You can't see through them at all. My coworker and I were talking about noticing the girl's dad setting up the party. I cracked a joke that I should have gone up to him and asked for 24 cupcakes for our whole class. We had just started to cackle when the dad stepped through the gate. There was no way he didn't hear us, 6 feet away on the other side of the fence, walking towards us as we spoke the last couple sentences. He scattered by, looking down, and didn't say anything. I mean, if I had more cupcakes than I needed, and one kid at the playground wanted one, I wouldn't lose sleep over handing them one. That said, by asking for one just because she wanted one regardless of appropriateness, he's modeling bad etiquette and teaching her that getting what you want is more important than respecting boundaries. Not everything is meant for us all of the time, and she's old enough to start learning that lesson. Everyone who's saying that the dad is not entitled would have been on the same boat as that dad. Imagine you're out with your family having a picnic and a stranger comes up to you and says, "Hey, my daughter saw the bag of chips you guys had. Can I have it?" While also bringing his daughter almost to guilt trip you into it. Different scenario, same parent. That's rude and plain out odd to do. OP. Exactly. Who does that? Extra cupcakes for you. If all the other kids in the play area had lined up with their caregivers to beg for a cupcake, there certainly would not have been enough. And when they started bawling because they didn't get one, guess whose fault that would be? It's a tough lesson to learn that not everything is for you. On the bright side, the thing you want is right over at the shop. Let's go get one. Well, what do you think? Was the dad an entitled jerk or not? Please let us know. If we had extras, I wouldn't have minded giving him one. I don't know, maybe it's just me. Am I the jerk for brushing my hair in spite of my grandma? Context. I, 18 female, have kind of curly hair. It's like halfway, I guess. The bottom curls a lot, but near my scalp it doesn't curl nearly as much. Because of my curls, if I brush my hair, it turns into a giant poofy lion's mane basically. It's all frizzy and staticky and just looks bad. However, I didn't really discover this until I was about 14. My hair was wild growing up. Well, growing up, my grandma always made a fuss over my hair. No matter what you did, it'd be frizzy when dry. So every time I was at her house, she'd have me brush my hair because she never believed that I had already brushed it. I hope you can see where this is going. Some additional context. I haven't seen my grandma in a few years due to going to boarding school in a different country. I stayed there for about 2 years, but on breaks, I'd only see my parents and friends, not my grandparents. When I returned home for good, my grandparents moved away and I didn't get the chance to see them due to lockdown. Well, I finally got the chance to see my grandparents again, and we went to their house for the weekend. With the way my hair is now, it's a bit frizzy as it's drying, but when it's completely dry, the frizz becomes a lot less noticeable due to the curls. I also finger brush to minimize the frizz. My grandma saw me while my hair was drying and told me to go brush my darn hair, and that by this age you should already know how to brush your hair. I told her that brushing my hair so much is what made my hair so frizzy, so I refused. She told me that was BS and that I'd better brush it before our special brunch. I just ignored her for the most part and went into the guest room to do homework. That was until our special brunch, when I came out of the room to leave. My grandma saw me and my curls and said, "Look how much better your hair looks when it's brushed. I told you so." I was literally dumbfounded. Did she seriously think that my hair was brushed? I told her it wasn't brushed and she didn't believe me, so I went and got a brush, walked up to her, and brushed my hair. Wouldn't you know it, it was a disaster. The look on her face was priceless. She got all angry at me, saying that I just ruined her family photos. Guess that's why the brunch was so special, and that I needed to fix my hair. I told her that there was nothing I could do now, and she was the one who told me to brush my hair anyway. My mom said I was a jerk for this, but my dad said that it was hilarious. Away from my mom, of course. Though I do kinda see why I'm the jerk, because she paid for a professional photographer, which I didn't know until she told me after the fact, and she already told me my hair looked good and I ruined it on purpose to spite her. So yeah, am I the jerk? Edit. Wow, this blew up. Thank you all. I just woke up, by the way. But while my grandma is stubborn and stuck in her ways, I still love her. She's usually good to be around. It's just me needing to look presentable. Also, my mom and grandma both have straight hair, for those wondering. Thank you for all the support and tips though. Not the jerk. Anyone with any shade of curly hair knows if you brush the curl, you're getting Diana Ross hair. You tried to tell her. I'm a dude who usually had short hair. Grew it a bit longer recently, and it turns out it's somewhat curly and wavy. When I brush it the wrong way or wind blows the wrong way, it looks like a bird built a nest on my head. You want to talk to my manager? Okay. This happened about 13 years ago. I was a field service engineer for a national retail chain. Basically, I was the IT guy who drove around in a company vehicle servicing the computer networks in the stores. The way the company was organized, there were corporate employees and there were retail employees. Being a corporate employee, I received corporate stock as a small part of my salary, and my starting pay was 3 times the rate of any store manager. Because I always put out fires, I often found myself in the awkward position of dealing with store managers who honestly thought that they were the store owners and that I was just the hired help. This was truly ironic, as I actually did own a very small piece of the corporation, whereas the average store manager did not. One day, I got orders to replace a server in a store not too far from the house. I worked out of my house, but kept parts in the truck, and also the back room of another store nearby. So I show up to the store where the server needed to be replaced. It was my second stop of 3 scheduled that day. I walk in the store wearing my very obvious corporate uniform and name tag with the logo. The store owner, retail manager, instantly demands to know what I'm doing in her store. I get this all the time, nothing new. I calmly explain that my boss wants me to upgrade one of the store servers, hardware replacement, and I even show her where it is that I will be working. I explain that it will take about an hour and that the POS registers might go offline for about 5 minutes. She isn't happy, but she reluctantly allows me into the room where the server is and I start working. When I'm just about done, the POS registers go down as I'm switching them to the new server, which is not fully hooked up yet. It was at this point where I realize I have forgotten to bring in a couple of cables that I need to finish hooking the new server into the store network. So I run out to the truck to get the required cables. I'm gone about 2 minutes. When I get back, the store manager is sitting at the table in front of the server, and she's got food spread out all over the table. The server is under the table. I tell the store manager I need to finish hooking up the server, gesturing under the table. The store manager tells me I'll have to come back in an hour after her lunch break. I'm shocked into total silence. Then a cashier bursts into the room, panicked that the registers aren't working and the checkout lines are getting backed up. I explain to the manager that I have to fix that server now or the registers will not work. The manager tells me I should have thought of that before I started working on her lunch break area. I calmly tell the store manager that she'll have to take a break later or find somewhere else to eat her lunch. She tells me I'm rude and incompetent and demands to speak to my manager immediately. Okie dokie. I call up my manager using my corporate issue iPhone and quickly explain the situation and then walk into the server room to hand the iPhone to the store manager. While she's on the phone with my manager, I head out to the front of the store to explain and apologize that the registers are going to be down for a few more minutes. I can't hear exactly what the store manager is telling my manager, but I can tell that it's a heated conversation and I clearly heard the word fired mentioned a few times. It's clear that the store owner, or retail manager, wants me to be fired for daring to try to interrupt her lunch break. Unfortunately for her, my direct supervisor was about 5 to 6 levels above the retail district manager. So the store's manager was complaining loudly about interrupting my work to the manager of her manager's manager's manager. A few minutes later, the store manager walks out of the room awkwardly, balancing bits of pieces of her lunch spread. I immediately go back to working the new server up and rebooting the POS systems so that they will sync on the new server and the cashiers can get back to work. Everyone is happy now, except the store owner, because her lunch break was ruined. The main part of my task is done now, but it takes me another 15 minutes to clean up my mess and reorganize my truck to get ready for my next stop, which will be about a 1-hour drive from my current location. As I'm doing this, I see the retail district manager. I've met her before, going into the store. She walks back out of the store with the former store manager who's carrying a box of her personal items. Okay, Karen, she's fired. Happy now? I've just come back from a quick trip to the States, via 2 days in Germany. Business, don't ask. So of course, being British and having read so much about people's experience in places like the Wall of Marts, well, I had to see one for myself. I'll admit, I went to a load of other places and I can't remember what uniforms people wore, so details are sparse in that respect. This story starts with me walking through the Wart Mall, at once impressed with the range and the prices, and faintly horrified by some of the food. As I'm walking through, I hear the dreaded harumphing of an approaching needy wild Karen. She wasn't looking at me, but at a girl. Now, the girl was wearing jeans, jacket, handbag, and absolutely no uniform. The Karen starts whipping up a storm of demands and threats, and the poor girl looked like she was about to cry. Something had to be done. I decided that I'd intervene, but before I'd taken 2 steps, a genuine, bona fide suit-wearing legend arrived. And, alright, I didn't know he was a legend immediately, so I'm getting ahead of myself. Legend, booming over Karen's squawking diatribe. What seems to be the problem? Karen was taken aback by this voice, but soon regained hers and started complaining about everything the girl hadn't done, and how she should be fired, blah blah blah. The guy turns to the girl and says, "Right, I'm officially promoting you to customer. You're fired. Enjoy your shopping experience." The girl had clearly figured out what he was doing and couldn't stop grinning. The legend turns back to Karen and says, as the title suggests, "She's fired. Happy now?" Karen saw the girl still smiling and decided she was even less happy, nearly shouting, "But I want her to get something or the other." And the legend stops her in her tracks and says, "That's a customer you're harassing. If you continue to harass her or any other customer in this store, I'll have those large men from security haul you out of the shop." Karen harumphed again, albeit more quietly, stuck her nose up in the air and stalked off. As she got to the end of the aisle, the teenager just burst out laughing, and it was such an infectious laugh, the legend joined in. Brilliant. Karen's supervisor harasses me. I get her fired. I work for a contractor doing custodial work for a casino. To preface this, I took this job mainly because it did not involve management in any way. I have worked in management most of my career and was just burnt out. When I started this job, I was made aware by the recruiter/assistant, who I will call Amy. She's lovely. that a lot of the people that worked at the site only spoke Spanish, and that there may be some difficulties with communication from time to time. This wasn't a problem for me, as Amy spoke English and was currently managing the contract because the actual contract manager was on medical leave due to having a surgery. I am the kind of person that works very hard, mainly because I take pride in my work ethic. As soon as I started, I downloaded Duolingo, an app that is used to teach foreign languages, and began to learn as much Spanish as I could so I could better communicate with my coworkers. I'm still learning, but know enough to understand my coworkers most of the time. Most of my coworkers are lazy. They're oftentimes on their phones while on the casino floor, huddled in groups, or hiding in their locker rooms to avoid doing work. I, on the other hand, have regularly gotten compliments from the company we are in a contract with about my work ethic, so much so that the president himself has sent emails to my company to show his gratitude for my hard work, as well as giving me some free merchandise with the company's logo. Here's where the story gets more interesting. We are ridiculously short-staffed. On a regular shift, we're supposed to have 10 custodians working, cleaning the machines, the bathrooms, keeping trash off of the casino floors, taking out trash, mopping the bar and restaurant, restocking all the supplies, etc. Oftentimes, we will have 5 people on a shift or less, and with my coworkers being fairly lazy, that means a lot of stuff doesn't get done. I'm regularly doing most of the shift's workload by myself, as well as picking up the slack for the other shifts because they are too extremely short-staffed. The actual contract manager finally comes back from medical leave about 3 months into me working there. We will call her Sally. At first, me and Sally got along great. She thanks me for my work ethic and for everything I've been doing. All of that changes when I asked for 3 days off. We had been working mandatory overtime, and up until then, I was there for nearly 60 hours every week because we were short-staffed. Initially, Sally agrees to my time off request. I filled out the paperwork and made copies for myself just in case, managerial background. A week before the days I requested came up, and she puts out the schedule, and my time off wasn't applied. I approach Sally and ask her why, and she says that someone else put in for time off. This other person is the laziest of all of my coworkers and regularly acts as a supervisor because she's worked there the longest and is the only person that can understand a little bit of English. I tell Sally that I think this is extremely unfair considering that I put in my time off request over 2 months ago and had made sure that no one else had asked for the same days off beforehand. Sally explains that she doesn't have any paperwork to prove that, so I give her my copy, which I had placed in my work bag. This is when Sally decides to show her true colors. Do you want to do my job? Do you think you can manage this case better than I do? No? I don't pay you to come in here and argue with me. You aren't a manager. You aren't a supervisor. You are a janitor. That's it. That's all I pay you for. I keep what Sally said in mind and just keep my head down at work for a few months after this. At this point of my employment, Sally is getting in trouble by the higher-ups for the lack of employees and retention that is occurring at our site, as well as the company we work for not satisfied with her performance managing everyone. It's not really a secret as we have a regional and district management coming in frequently to try and help get people hired and play peacekeepers between Sally and the casino CEO. Finally, we are getting new people hired on thanks to a temp agency that was contracted in to help. A lot of the new hires only speak English. The others only speak Spanish. Other than the lazy coworker who is now on vacation, 3 weeks, the only person that can speak/understand both English and Spanish is me. The morning the new hires arrive, everyone is gathered in the office, including Sally's boss. They go through orientation, only speaking English, for the new hires and begin to give everyone their assignments. This is when Allie comes up to me. J. Sacred Art? I need you to train the new hires today and make sure everyone else is doing what they're supposed to be doing. Me. Does this mean that I'm being made a supervisor? Sally, who apparently forgot our previous conversation. No, but you're the only one that can speak English and Spanish, and so I need you to make sure everyone's doing what they're scheduled to do. Me, with a blank expression. I'm sorry, Sally, but I can't do that. I'm not a manager, I'm not a supervisor, and I'm not a translator. I'm a janitor. That's all you pay me for, remember? Sally at this point is trembling with rage and starts screaming at me about doing what I'm told to do and dropping my attitude, etc. I looked her dead in the eye with her supervisor, whom she forgot was behind her, and pulled my resignation form out of my bag and handed it to her and walked out, knowing full well that now they were going to have a lot more issues because their best worker quit and there was no one that could effectively communicate between the workers and the company we were contracted with. Skip forward to the next week and I get a phone call from Mr. Regional Manager. "Hello, J. Sacred Art. This is Mr. So-and-so. I wanted to formally apologize for the behavior of our former employee, Miss Sally. She's been relieved of her position, and we would like you to come back and work with us in a supervisory position. I am now a supervisor, and they are paying for me to take Spanish lessons, which once I complete, I am supposed to get a significant raise." Entitled Kid Next Door uses binoculars to peer into my window. Backstory. Neighbors have 3 boys, all of whom are under the age of 7. In my first encounter with the mom, she promptly tells me, not asks, that her kids wonder. I naively thought that meant there might be the odd rogue ball episode or something, so don't protest at the time. Our yards are unfenced, and we share a driveway. Oh boy, was I wrong. My yard, back deck, front garden, and even the inside of my house were seen as an extension of their space. The boys would even have sword fight tournaments on my back deck, off my kitchen. The parents would literally do nothing. I was put in a position many times to ask for more privacy as it was affecting my work and a general sense of well-being, as I am a very private person. It took some push, but finally things got a bit better. But they still wonder. However, to a level I am not willing to cause drama over. This past early winter, I decided to put in security cameras. I live alone in a not-so-great area, and I wanted some peace of mind. I also wanted to document encroachments in case it got bad again. In that time, the cameras have picked up a lot of encroachment from kids, but I did not raise the issue because the relationship with parents is peaceful and I wanted to keep it that way. Fast forward to yesterday, my camera picks up a clip of the middle kid peering into my window with a pair of binoculars. I send the clip to the parents, explaining one of my cameras picked it up and that I'm not comfortable with this behavior. It's inappropriate and an invasion of my privacy. They send a note back saying he was only trying to see if I was home so he could say hello. Then they insisted on knowing more about my security cameras, what they can see, and if they pick up when they're playing in their yard. I explained that they don't, as they only pick up motion in my yard. But if the kids are in my yard, which they are, a lot, they are recorded. The parents are insisting that I take the cameras down. Support our channel by joining as a member today, and we'll give you a shout out in our next video. Or come watch this video next. You won't believe what Karen does in that one.